Hello, and welcome to the third edition of the Comet Football Update for the 2017 season. I'm Matt Scher, and alongside me is head football coach Dan Musielewicz. How you doing, Coach Moose?
Great, Matt. How are you?
Doing great.
Thanks for having me on for the third time. These are fun.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
So, Coach, how does it feel to get that first win of your head coaching career under your belt?
I tell you what, it was. It's not anything that you ever focus on, and it was great just to get a win, but awesome for our staff, our families. Our staff's fantastic. I know that we've talked about that quite a bit, and all the different things that we do as a staff together, and all the time that we put in. It's fun to be able to do that. You know, everybody came up to me after the game, gave me a big hug, and Coach Simrel made sure that we got the game ball and all that kind of good stuff, and it was something that's hard to put into words when you think about it. We're not here to just win football games, but to be able to share that with our staff. And I told our staff too, and our guys, it's a great win, first win of the year, and a first win for our coaching staff together. So it's a shared thing by all means, but definitely a proud moment, sure, and a fun moment to be able to have all that support together as a staff, and then our guys, our young men that played so hard, and I thank them for playing so hard once again, as we always do, sure.
Now, it was a nail-biter at the finish against Elmhurst College for the first win of the 2017 campaign. Now, throughout the game, were there any positives you were able to take away from the game to use moving forward throughout the season?
Sure. Wins or losses, you can always learn something and move on and move forward. And we played well in all three phases, just not consistently. I think our defense played really well the majority of the game, and we only had, I believe, 4 missed tackles throughout the day. We had three interceptions. I thought our defensive backfield played maybe the best game in the last few years together as a group. And again, Doug Pollard played really well in the special teams game with a couple of touchbacks and hit some field goals that were huge at the beginning to be able to separate from the scoreboard and gather some momentum. And then offensively too, we took advantage of some good field position, hit some big explosive plays, which is something that we try to focus on offensively as well. So there's a lot of different things always that you can take, and a lot of different positives that we need to continue to build on, and then obviously learn from our negatives and our mistakes to be able to continue to move forward and get better, which again we will. It's something that we talk about one day at a time, as you know.
One win.
Yeah, one win, absolutely.
So last week we talked about the defense needing to improve in week 2. It looked like the Comet defense was unstoppable until Elmhurst scored with seconds left on the clock to trails 19-7 at the half. The momentum carried over in the second half as Elmhurst was able to close that gap and give themselves a chance to win on the final drive. What do you think attributed to the comeback from the Blue Jays?
Sure. Well, they're a good football team, and they played extremely hard, and they're well coached. And sometimes we have to step back as a staff and say, those guys get to play too and get to make plays. But again, it's a consistency thing for us to be able to always and constantly be in the spot that we need to be from a discipline standpoint, whether it is gap or eye discipline. And that's in all three phases where we have to be able to string it in and play out, being consistent with our job, doing our job. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and other teams are able to make plays. And I thought we fought that momentum fairly well, and we just let that quote unquote quicksand where you let one play lead to another one and lead to another one, whether it's a bad play. And that's something again that since we've been here in January, have talked about that one win, that no matter what the outcome of the play before is, your focus is on doing your job the next play. And maybe we let one bad play kind of string again to another, and momentum is huge in college football, and because the game's so emotional, and it's tough for young men to be able to try to keep an even keel when you're in stressful situations, and we need to do a better job of that as a staff and as a program and as a team, moving on, keeping that even keel, and concentrating on what we need to do that next play to be able to be successful.
Now, we talked a little bit last week about the emergence of freshman John Adams III in the secondary against Heidelberg. It did not look like there was a letdown in week 2 against Elmhurst, clearly, with him getting his first interception. Has Adams' rapid progression surprised you?
Not at all, to be honest with you. Like I told you before, it didn't take more than a couple of days into camp to to see what John can do from a physical standpoint. And he's done a great job of his mental progression, I think, of understanding who he's going against, what we're trying to do coverage-wise. And he's in a spot where sure a lot of people like to throw at him, and sure are going to throw at a freshman corner. And John rises to that occasion. He loves the competition has never been too big for him, and he's a very confident person and a confident player, and he plays that way. And I'm excited to, again, to see his progression as each game goes on to only get better through experience.
With Walter Love III only available in the second half, we saw some adjustments made in the secondary that had a strong presence in that first half. Why do you think the depth in the secondary was so effective against Elmhurst?
Sure. Well, that's one thing we pride ourselves on as a coaching staff is recruiting. It's the lifeblood of our program, and we focus a lot on player development and some of the things that we do to try to build a cohesive family. And I think players like that kind of that atmosphere. And so we're able to develop great players. And Kyle came in towards the second half of Heidelberg as well, Kyle Nearing, and then played a really good first half and was able to get an interception. And that's, we compete, and we compete hard no matter who we put in and who gets that opportunity to play. It's the NFL adage of next man up. And we stressed to Kyle all week that it's going to be a great opportunity for him to be able to both get on the field and earn more playing time, and man, he took advantage of it and did a great job.
Now moving to the offensive side of the ball, the team started off slow with the Blue Jays holding the Comets to just 2 field goals. Once the second quarter got underway, however, it was a different story as the Comets found the end zone twice through the air. However, it was short-lived with just 1 rushing touchdown the rest of the way. Are you worried about the inconsistency at times with your offense, and do you believe that these are just growing pains in terms of feeling things out early in the season?
Yeah, I think no doubt they're growing pains. As a head coach, you worry about everything, Matt. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is, on and off the field. That's what you do. There is a little inconsistency in all 3 phases for sure. And we look back and we watch film and we study it as a staff, and then we sit down as position groups and watch it, and as an offensive, defensive, watch it. And once again, you can look back to 1 or 2 plays that, I missed this blocker, I went to the wrong, or I blocked the wrong guy, or I ran the wrong route, or ran the wrong route depth. And it's those little things that led to some of those inconsistencies. And when we put it all together, all 11 on the field, once again, the greatest thing about football, all 11 have to do it. It's amazing what our guys can do, and we've talked to them about how there is no limit. No ceiling to what you can do if you put all 11 of them put it together. And so I believe those are growing pains, and we made a big step as a football team from week 1 to week 2 in all 3 phases of cleaning up those little things from the discipline standpoint and the details that we talked about that we have to continue to do to be consistent, like you said, so we can be successful in all 3 phases. So I'm really happy that we competed really well and found a way to win against a really good football team in a tough environment on the road, which wins are hard to come by in that scenario for sure.
Now, how do you feel about Lane Porter's progression from week 1 to week 2?
Lane did a great job taking care of the football. Number one, making great decisions. They got him one time in a great coverage that was a really good play by their defensive back. And Lane, grit is a great word for him. He took some shots, and some big ones too. That once again, that I like to argue a little bit every once in a while and get on a referee. But he showed a lot of resiliency and poise, no doubt, and played really, really well. And hit some receivers down the field with some really accurate throws, and made some really good decisions to be able to take care of the football, give us an opportunity to extend drives, and then try to finish the game at the end. So really excited about that step from him, and once again excited that he's only going to get better through more experience.
Now, Jerome Washington had a big game offensively, rushing for 119 yards on 28 carries with a touchdown. Do you feel he is a big weapon that could be an elite running back in the MIAA this year?
Well, Jerome's proved it in the past, too, of what he can do, and he has a certain skill set, and, he's a big boy, and, he's more athletic and has some more lateral movement than you would think for a 240-pound running back. And so there's some things that number one, I think Coach Brad Rumsey's done a really good job of piecing him into our offense and developing somewhat of a run game around him and asking him to do what he does really well. And Cody Carlisle has done an awesome job as a position coach getting Jerome mentally where he needs to be and fundamentally technically sound from a ball security standpoint, and then what he's reading in the run game. And Jerome's a big part of our offense. I'm not 100% sure how many carries he had, but I think he carried the ball 28 times.
And,
28 times. So he's one, sure, that we're going to put the ball in his hands as a senior and a proven running back that is going to make plays consistently for us in the run game. And I would, just as with any of our guys, I would take our guys over anybody else in the league and put all my money and my job on the line with our guys. I love them, and they play hard. They play extremely hard.
Now moving on to this Saturday, Aurora University is the third test of the 2017 campaign. Not giving away the specifics of the team's game plan, has the team been able to develop a plan of attack based upon the knowledge the team has of the Aurora Spartans?
Yeah, we put a lot of time into game planning, no doubt. And Aurora's another team that plays really hard and proved that they're worthy. I mean, they went and beat Loris, who beat Elmhurst week 1, and so they're going to present a tough test, no doubt. And again, have some really good players in tough positions and present challenges on all three phases. And it's going to be key to have a great week of preparation and focusing on what we have to do on a single play standpoint of doing our job and that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to give anything away, as always. But by every Monday at this point, we have a good game plan moving forward on what we want to do.
Now, last question. Aurora played the Comets in Week 3 of the 2015 season, and in that contest, the Comets won 44-14. Now, last week, as you said, the Spartans defeated Loris College 31-26, a team that also has beaten Elmhurst back in Week 1. How big of a challenge will Aurora be, considering that they're coming off of a conference championship, or co-conference championships in 2016?
Yeah, well, that's some strung together success for sure. And I believe we played Aurora back in 2013. Under a different staff, but they've progressed as a program. It's very visible on the field with how they play, how hard they play, how well coached they are. That is going to be tough. Anytime you play a team that has that kind of momentum going, that's moved themselves up to that standard with a co-championship and a good win last week. Confidence is something that is extremely important for a football team, and they're definitely going to have that coming in here. And like I said, they're going to present a great challenge. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to play a good football team and hopefully get better. And again, once our focus is on what we do today and how we can get better today and compete today. And so it's going to be a great opportunity for us on Saturday, and we're excited about it.
Good luck, Coach Moose.
Thanks a lot, Matt. I appreciate it.
Our next guest on the Comet Football Update is Special Teams Coordinator Chris Madill. How you doing, Coach Madill?
Good, Matt. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Coach Madill, entering your first season as the Special Teams Coordinator of the Olivet football program, what has the transition period been like for you from coaching the linebacking core to the Special Teams unit?
Well, you add 55 more guys that you have to watch in terms of the core 4 as well as the field goal team. So I went from 2 to 57 now, still including the inside linebackers. So you got to make sure that everybody's doing their job on all special teams, as well as still being a part of the defensive game plans and defensive schemes, and making sure your 2 guys are taking care of business there as well.
Now, after 2 games, what do you believe are the keys to having a successful season from a special teams perspective?
I think it's effort, and all the guys that we have on the special teams units right now play with great effort, and that's the reason they're there. And I think if we can continue to do that and execute the little things that sometimes gets us in trouble, the last couple games, we've been a guy or 2 away on certain special teams from really making a big play. And I think if we can take care of those and do the little things, we can be very successful and help us in winning football games.
Now, Coach, on special teams, it's been back-to-back weeks now with a blocked PAT kick, a statistic that the Comets have led the nation in the past 2 seasons. What kind of confidence does that give the special teams unit and their capabilities to help swing momentum in a football game?
Well, I think it's a big play because if you think about what the PAT block team is for, it's we just gave up a score defensively, and as much momentum as that can give an offense and take away from a defense, if we can turn around that next play and block a kick, that kind of shifts some momentum back into our favor. That leads into a kickoff return and into the offense. So I think it's big in terms of taking away momentum very quickly from an offense or an opponent.
Now in the punting game, we saw Gunnar Aper improve his punting with 3 punts averaging 42 yards. How has Aper's punting abilities progressed now from week to week?
I think Gunnar's done a great job. We talked since last spring about consistency with Gunnar. And, it's something that's new to him in terms of the role that he's in. And, I think he's done a great job with it. During the scrimmage, he had a very good day punting. Last week, he made a big play in terms of the snap and being able to get the ball off. But I think his composure as the punter and in the pocket and hitting his launch point and being able to deliver some big kicks is big. And he's done a great job with that. And he's turning consistent in terms of all his punts, and that's kind of one thing that we've really stressed with Gunnar is being consistent every single time.
Now in the kicking game, Doug Pollard had a bit of trouble last year with keeping his kickoffs in bounds. This year, with the exception of one kickoff, the rest of his kicks have resulted in touchbacks. How has the accuracy of Doug Pollard's leg been improving in your eyes as a coach?
Well, I think the big thing is Doug strives to be perfect. And, in our kickoffs, with where we would like the ball, I think he was trying to hit it in a one-by-one box. And sometimes Doug has a natural draw to his kicks. So what we've done is widened his aim point a little bit and allowed him to utilize his leg, which he does have he's got a thunderfoot for sure. And, that's a weapon. And instead of trying to be pinpoint accurate with everything, let's open it up a little bit and let's allow you to use some of that power. And it's really helped in terms of giving him confidence to be able to use that leg and not worry so much about putting it in such a tight area.
Now overall, were you pleased with how the special teams unit performed as a whole these first 2 games of the season?
I am. The one thing that I'm very pleased with is the effort that we play with. And that's the one thing I told those guys. If you're going to be on special teams here at Olivet College, you got to play with great effort. If we're going to make an error, let's do it at 100 miles an hour. We can fix the errors, but what you can't do is try to get somebody to play with more effort. That's intrinsic. That's something that they play with. And if I can get them to bring that to the table every single Saturday, we're going to be okay. Now it's just a matter of getting things cleaned up, moving forward, and making special teams more of a weapon for us. But in terms of where we're at right now, I'm very pleased. I love the effort, and we'll get the little things fixed. And moving forward, it's going to be a weapon for us.
Thank you, Coach Madill. Good luck this week.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Our next guest on the Comet Football Update is senior wide receiver Cornelius Saxon. How you doing, Corn?
How you doing, Matt?
Doing good. First question. You are now Olivet's career leader in pass receptions with 144. With setting this record, have you been able to reflect what the record means to you in terms of the work you've put in over your career?
I have, but I wouldn't have been able to get the record without the great players we have on the team and the great coaches we have and the great workout coaches we have. And without them, I couldn't have been able to get the record.
And then how has the process been in working with the new starting quarterback in Lane Porter through camp in the first 2 games of the season?
It's been real good. He stepped up and took the role. He always tells me don't call him QB1, but I still think him as QB1, but he's doing real good and is stepping up and becoming that playmaker.
And then as you enter your final season of your Comet career, I know it's a little bittersweet, have you had time to reflect on what it means to your career to be a Comet?
Yes. My first year I was like, I don't know if I'm going to play, and it was always in my mind, in and out, but came in, started, and never looked back, and happy to be here.
Well, thank you, Cornelius. Congratulations once again. Olivet College's all-time receptions leader. Good luck this week, man.
Thank you.
Our next guest on the Comet Football Update is senior running back Jerome Washington. How you doing, Jerome?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing great. Happy to be here. You had an outstanding game against Elmhurst. Did you have a sense before the game that you were feeling good and going to have a big game rushing-wise?
Honestly, no, I did not. But, you know, I trust my linemen, so whatever they give me, I'm just going to run hard no matter what.
And speaking of your offensive line, it looked like they were opening up some pretty big holes for you out there.
Yeah, that's my old line, man. We in practice, you know, they like to, we make sure they open up the holes and everything like that. But in the game, I feel like they did a good job of opening up them holes.
Thank you, Jerome, and congratulations on that 100-yard rushing week.
Thank you very much.
Our next guest on the Comet Football Update is senior defensive lineman Robert Cuba. How you doing, Robert?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. With all the success you had individually as a member of this team last year, what are you looking to improve upon or achieve for the remainder of the season?
I think more leadership goals off the field. For me, just making sure the younger guys around on the defensive line know what they need to do, especially once I'm done and Tyler Douglas is done, and that they know that they have to bring more energy every day, just like us. So, yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the state of the defense currently in the direction that is moving toward after 2 games into the season?
I think week 1 we found out where we needed to fix things, and I think week 2 was where we progressed more, and we found ourselves making big plays, making stops, and making turnovers, and it was something that we needed to do, and we progressed from week 1 pretty much to week 2, and everybody noticed that, and it was something that was big time for us.
And then final question, you look pretty good on defense this past Saturday with the sack and 3 tackles, and then 2 tackles for loss resulting in 10 yards. Was this just a case of being locked in, or did you see something in that Elmhurst offense that gave you a clue about what they were trying to run on a specific play?
I think me personally, I saw some areas where I could expose the offensive line, and then also just talking to my coaches off the field when we go to the sideline, and they would put me in certain situations and place me on certain guys that I knew I could beat off the field.
Well, thank you, Robert. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
That does it for this week's Comet Football Update. You can tune in this Saturday, 89.1 The One WOCR FM, or go to WOCRFM.com to catch all the action as the Comets take on the Aurora University Spartans in a Week 3 non-conference matchup for their 3rd test of the 2017 season. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, with pregame starting at 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to come back next Wednesday for the next Comet Football Update, as Coach Musielewicz and I will discuss the game against the Spartans as well as the upcoming bye week. In the meantime, you can also get all the latest information on all of Olivet's varsity athletic teams on our website, www.olivetcomets.com. You can also follow and like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching for @OlivetAthletics. You can also follow WOCR on Twitter by searching for @WOCR891. For head coach Dan Musielewicz, special teams coordinator Chris Madill, senior wide receivers Cornelius Saxton, running back Jerome Washington, and defensive lineman, this guy right here, Robert Cuba, I'm Matt Scher. We'll see you next week for the next edition on the Comet Football Update.